Welcome back to yet another episode of Building the Pride. I'm your host, Drew. I am not joined by my co host, Mike, today, unfortunately. He is in Georgia and then super busy with work, but I promise you, I am trying to get Mike back on the show as quickly as I possibly can. So today, I'm going to try something that I don't know that I've seen anyone do in the NFL content creation space, which is I asked ChatGPT to build the perfect NFL roster. And I'm just updating our scroll here real quick. Basically, I asked ChatGPT, and I'll share my screen here, and we can talk about it. I asked ChatGPT, okay, I've said this 3 times already here. So I asked it this question: how to build the perfect NFL roster. And so I thought I would see what its response was. How do I get rid of this? Can I not? Okay. Okay. So I thought I would just see what it said. And then we could start from there and kind of apply some of this and see where the Detroit Lions end up in this type of chat GPT AI recommendation. Okay. So how to build the perfect NFL roster. Building the perfect NFL roster isn't about stacking stars. It's about maximizing positional value, depth, and scheme flexibility across 53 spots. Here's the blueprint front offices actually follow. Now, from what I know about ChatGPT, I don't have any faith in that statement. I think that ChatGPT is just a AI tool that goes and searches multiple things on the internet much faster than humans can do, and then compiles it into like readable chunks, summaries, basically. And that's what this is. This is like a summary of roster construction theory from the compiled from the internet, I guess. So let's just kind of see what it says. I wish I could get rid of this. ChatGPT is AI and can make mistakes. Check important info. So we have to take this with a grain of salt. Start with positional value. And so we'll just use this as a kind of a refresher on the idea of positional value. In today's league, not all positions are equal. The tier 1 most valuable positions are quarterback, edge rusher, offensive tackle, wide receiver, cornerback, and I think you can make a case for interior defensive line, so defensive tackle, especially if that is a pass rushing interior defensive lineman. You invest premium draft capital and cap space here. All right. Tier 2, defensive tackle, pass rushing. I think that position is largely bumped up to a tier 1 position. Left tackle, that seems wrong. Tight end, coverage, safety. Because it says offensive tackle up here in tier 1, and if left tackle is a tier 2 position, that means right tackle is the more important tackle position, and that's just, I don't think anybody would say that. Tier 2, defensive tackle, pass rushing. I think that's a tier 1. Left tackle, wrong. That shouldn't be there. Tight end, coverage, safety. So that would be Kirby Joseph, right? Yeah. Tier 3, running back, off-ball linebacker, guard, kicker, punter. You will fill tier 3 with value contracts and draft picks. Let's see here. Oops. Sorry, it's warm today, but it's not so warm that I don't need like a blanket while I sit here. So build around an elite quarterback. Modern NFL is quarterback driven. If you have a Mahomes, Allen level QB, build an explosive offense. Good but not elite QB, build dominant defense plus run game. Rookie contract quarterback, spend aggressively everywhere else. No QB equals no contention. Seems logical. Win in the trenches. Offensive line. 2 elite tackles minimum. Interior must prevent interior pressure. Fastest way to kill drives. You need 7 to 9 playable linemen. D-line. You need at least 2 legitimate pass rushers. Interior push matters as much as edge. I don't know about that. Rotate 8 plus defensive linemen to stay fresh. Super Bowl teams almost always pressure with 4 and protect with 5. Build for today's reality. Nickel is base. You need 3 starting caliber corners, hybrid safeties who can cover and tackle, linebackers who can run. You're defending 11 personnel most of the game. Balanced star power plus depth. A perfect 53-man roster typically looks like 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, 9 offensive linemen, 9 to 10 D linemen, 5 linebackers, 6 corners, 4 safeties, and 3 specialists. Cap allocation. Rough cap philosophy, so we have the different percentages, but basically it's ranking somewhere between 12 to 18%. So basically it's 15 to 20% for quarterbacks. Pass rushers are a little bit less. And then everything else is like 12 to 15% across the 3 primary positional value groupings. And then the rest you fill with rookie deals. You can't pay everyone. Draft well at running back, linebacker, interior offensive line. Scheme fit is greater than name value. A perfect roster fits the coach's system. Example, you need athletic O-line for wide zone teams, maulers for power teams, man coverage. You need elite press corners, zone heavy. You need smart, instinctive DBs. Stars out of scheme underperform. Playoff football means cold weather. I'm not so sure about this, even though we did have games in Chicago. We've had games in Kansas City in the past. That can get quite cold. I don't think Kansas City gets enough credit for being as cold as it gets. Let's see here. Turnover margin, situational football. You need short yardage running back, red zone mismatch at tight end, edge rushers who can win late, clutch kicker. Culture plus leadership. Every roster has veteran leader on offense and defense, accountability in the locker room. Talent without leadership collapses under adversity. If you want, we can build a 5-year. Show a realistic roster rebuild under the salary cap or design a perfect roster using current players. So let's just say apply this methodology to the Detroit Lions. So some of this stuff is like currently not updated for the upcoming season, right? The ChatGPT has to work off of stuff that's already out on the internet, and since Drew Petzing doesn't have any like quote unquote data or sample size yet, like it can't predict how well Goff is going to fit inside his system, even though I think that'll be fine. Okay, let's see. So step 1, commit or pivot. Jared Goff. Goff is very good within structure, elite behind a clean pocket, and fit Ben Johnson's system. Okay. Perfect roster verdict. He's good enough to win a Super Bowl. Disagree. The key is maintaining elite protection plus weapons. Keep investing in O-line and wide receiver depth. Draft a developmental QB on day 2 or 3 every 2 to 3 years. Detroit does not need to swing wildly at quarterback. Step 2, trenches. Offensive line, elite tier. Sewell, Ragnow, and Decker. So Sewell's still on the team. Ragnow very clearly is not. Decker might retire. So you're looking at having to replace Frank Ragnow and maybe having to replace Decker. That would be a championship level core. Recommendation: draft an interior offensive lineman every year. Prepare for Ragnow injury insurance. Seems like a good idea. Maintain 8 to 9 playable linemen. Defensive line, good. Needs one more alpha. Aiden Hutchinson, true franchise edge. Ali McNeil, they've paid both of these guys, so that makes a lot of sense. Missing piece, a second elite edge or interior disruptor. In January, you must win with 4 pass rushers. So I think that we have seen that play out with the 2 teams that made the playoff or the Super Bowl this year. So Seattle certainly has 4 guys that can generate pressure by themselves. And then we also saw them blitz creatively in Mike McDonald's system. And then New England went out and spent money on Milton Williams. He got a sack where he beat an interior offensive lineman in the Super Bowl. And then they have kind of a pass rush by committee group of edge players. So I also agree with this. Like, I think McNeil before the injury was disruptive, and Aiden's been good, but they are lacking another person on the edge, I think, to put them over the top. Draft or sign a top-tier edge opposite Hutchinson. They're not going to sign one. Add one more interior pass rusher. This is the biggest roster lever left. Interesting. Step 3, weapons nearly perfect. St. Brown, Williams, Laporta, Gibbs, Montgomery. This is a modern mismatch offense. Totally agree. Recommendation, add a big-bodied X receiver for red zone. Continue speed depth at wide receiver 4 and 5. So they added to Slaw, who I would call a big-bodied X receiver for the red zone. He did, I think, have 4 or 5 touchdowns this year on some pretty spectacular catches. So really the only recommendation for like the skill position players is like continue to add speed and depth, at wide receiver 4 and 5. And so like I think that's certainly not a need, for position group 4 and 5 deep. But it's something you could look at, especially like on a day 3 pick if you've got someone that's a burner, but has maybe prone to drops, or something like a guy you could develop that has some kind of special quality. Step 4, secondary, the critical growth area. Recent additions: Branch, Kirby Joseph, Carlton Davis. The lines improved here significantly. So Davis left, so replace Davis here with DJ Reed. Branch and Joseph are hurt to some degree. So the secondary to me is almost, you got to start over completely. Perfect roster standard, you need 3 legit starting corners, 2 safeties who can cover and tackle. Recommendation, draft a long-term CB1 if Davis isn't extended. He wasn't. Continue adding DB depth every year. Playoff football equals survival against elite quarterbacks. Cap allocation strategy for Detroit. Detroit is moving from rebuild to contender payroll. Ideal spending distribution. Goff contract is manageable. I think this largely means by being able to restructure. The Sewell contract is a cornerstone. St. Brown's been paid. Defensive spending must now rise. Interesting. Holmes must hit on mid-round defensive linemen. Keep drafting cheap contributors. Avoid paying running backs long-term. So we know that he is going to pay Jahmyr Gibbs, right? We know that. I would be utterly and completely shocked if he did not do it. So that's interesting. January checklist for Detroit. To become a dynasty level roster, they need a second dominant pass rusher, elite third corner, interior defensive line depth, continued offensive line health. They already have identity, physicality, offensive explosiveness, and a edge in coaching. Final assessment. The Lions are 1 or 2 defensive pieces away from a perfect roster model if they add one more premium pass rusher, hit on one more defensive back. They become the NFC's most complete team. If you want, we can mock a perfect 2026 Lions 53-man roster, run a 3-year draft strategy, or simulate how they match up versus the 49ers, Chiefs, or Ravens. So let's run a 3-year draft strategy. Here's a 3-year draft strategy, 26 through 28 for the Detroit Lions, built around winning with Goff now, extending the contention window, staying cap flexible, fixing the last championship gaps, pass rush plus secondary depth. This assumes the Lions are drafting in the 20 to 32 range most years. Overall strategy principles. Draft premium positions early. That's positional value. Draft 1 trench player every year. Never leave a draft without defensive back depth. Plan 2 years ahead for expensive contracts. Keep the roster young on defense. Goal. Add One more game wrecking pass rusher and secure long-term quarterback stability. Traits to prioritize: explosive first step, wins one-on-ones, doesn't need heavy blitz help. If the edge board is weak, go to elite man coverage corner. Round 2, outside cornerback. Even with Branch and Joseph, you need 3 starting caliber corners. These are both safeties. You need modern NFL runs 65% nickel. So the Lions don't run 65% nickel. They are primarily a base 4-3 defense. So this is one area that I think that they could change. I would love to see something like, I have a prospect crush on Sonny Styles from Ohio State. So like if they were to add Sonny Styles to replace Alex Anzalone, Brian Branch comes back healthy, let's say in 2027, and you have a linebacker group, like you trot out nickel, and your linebackers are effectively like Jack Campbell, Sonny Styles, and Branch is playing nickel corner. Like that front seven is terrifying. So, I mean, I just love the sound of that. Interior OL, future-proof for aging veterans, injury insurance, and cap turnover. Detroit wins because of trench dominance, protect that identity. Late rounds, rotational defensive tackle, special teams, linebacker, developmental QB. Let's see. Even if you don't need one. Okay, yeah. Just kind of doing a brief look here. Safety, hybrid, defensive back. I think I'm not taking what ChatGPT says here as literal, like the word. This is the way that you should do it. But I do think it's interesting how it leads from one train of thought to the next. And if you sit around and just sort of, and just like look at its recommendations. So like if it says, if you want, I can next mock actual prospect archetypes for 2026, show projected cap hits year by year. Like those are interesting, valuable things to learn or to like pay attention to, because it's going to inform your opinion of how the moves the Lions are making for years, both in the short and long term. So I think that's very interesting. Let's see if we can put some of these ideas into practice. There's my face. My face is great. Look at my face and love my face. Okay, so let's jump into my new favorite toy to play with, mockdrafthero.com. And I will make it bigger because I yell at Mike to make it bigger all the time. Okay, that's pretty good. And let's just let's shorten up the picks here a little bit. And we'll start. So let's try and use ChatGPT here to like inform some of our picks, right? So it is kind of funny. Like I asked ChatGPT a similar question last night and I got slightly different answers. Oh, there goes Caden Proctor. Oh, Philly traded up in front of us to get Proctor. You sons of bitches. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have here. We have on the board Jeremiah Love. Don't need a running back, right? Peter Woods would, let's see, what's what they say about him. He returned to form in 2025 as a consistent disruptor who even contributed 2 touchdowns on offensive packages. Woods is highly regarded for his explosive first step and his ability to play effectively at both D tackle and defensive end, 6'3", 315. So he's 20. That does answer one of the things that AI recommended that we do, right? They wanted an interior pass rushing element added to the team, right? So he's a value here at 16 overall. If the Lions decide to move Tate Ratledge to center, which I'm opposed to, it might be the cheapest option, to be honest. I mean, like, if they decide to move Tate Ratledge to center, that opens up right guard. Vega Ione from Penn State would be a plug and play, don't worry about him prospect. Known for exceptional strength, leverage, and run blocking and elite pass pro consistency, Ione's tape shows physical dominance and reliability in sustained drives. Scouts note that refining pad level and hand timing against technically astute defenders are areas for continued growth, right? So I do think that he would be an interesting player to add to this offensive line. If Decker comes back, I think that you could make a move for like Ione. And then I would be looking at, can I get a tackle that I can play in Dan Skipper's role this year in round 2 and then take over if Decker decides to retire in 2027. So let's see. So this is the kind of stuff that I really wish Mike was here for, because Mike can help me make a decision. Like, do we think that Decker is coming back? Do we think that he is retiring? Let me see. I'm just going to run a quick Twitter search to see if Decker's retired yet. I don't see anything about it. So he's still on the team. So until he's not on the team, I guess I should prepare for him as if he is. So then that becomes, so if Decker's back, the question becomes like, do you go out and sign a veteran center in free agency? If you sign someone like Connor McGovern, I think you're going to be paying somewhere between like $16 and $20 million a year. If you sign someone like Cade Mays, it's less proven as a center, more on the same timeline as the rest of the team, and probably cheaper. I would like to add Cade Mays and keep Tate Ratledge at right guard. So then I think the priority would become, I'm just kind of talking myself into Akeem Mesidor here. So then I would be like, oh, the Bears want to trade up. If the Bears are trading up, is it for Woods? Let's try. I think that this would, yeah, they traded up for Woods. So can we get, let's see what the board looks like at 25. Okay, Aone's gone. TJ Parker's gone. Okay, so this worked out pretty well. So we could take Caleb Lomu here and give him the Dan Skipper snaps and then get him ready for taking over for Decker in the future. That's a solid plan. If you're trying to extend Detroit's championship window, I think the pick that I'm going to make is Akeem Mesidor from Miami. So he's 20, he's 25. He'll be 25 on draft day. So if you draft him in the first round, at the end of his rookie deal, he's 30. This is why you don't want to draft old players, by the way, because you miss out on one entire contract's worth of having them on your team. So but what's the upside here? Messidor's strengths include productive pass rush with consistent pressure and ability to force turnovers. Love that. While his value against the run and in coverage has been bolstered by his role in aggressive defensive front. So the other thing about Messidor that I've heard is that he has pass rush move upon pass rush move. And I did make this trade down largely thinking that he would be here and this would be the pick. So if you give the Lions Messidor, I would finally say that they are in a championship window. Now we picked up, so we will have 2 second-round picks. We will have picks 50 and 57, and I am hoping that we can address either tackle or secondary. And some of the secondary pieces are coming off of the board. And there goes my tackle prospect that I wanted. So this is not worked out well. Yeah, that really worked out poorly for what I wanted to do. Okay, so our current offensive line in this scenario is Decker, Mahogany, Cade Mays, Ratledge, and Sewell, and then we've drafted Messidor. So we now have missed out on. I mean, there are multiple prospects here that I was hoping could potentially fall to 50, including Emmanuel McNeil Warren, Keith Abney, Dylan Thieneman, Max Ahenachor is someone that I really hoped would fall to 50, and Keontae Scott. Like, I think Keontae Scott would be a wonderful addition to the secondary, especially if Amik Robertson moves on. So that leaves us with trying to find an elite shutdown corner, which I think there's one of them in this class, and that's Gerard McCoy. So let's see what cornerback level offers us. So we have, I think, plenty of decent players. People seem to be in love with D'Angelo Pons. I just can't trust a 5'9", 170 guy. There's just not many of them that have ever worked out. Davison Igbinison from Ohio State would be a nice guy, especially at like nickel. Malik Muhammad is a guy that I think would fit the Lions culture really well. Chandler Rivers is a guy that I think would fit the culture really well. Dalen Everett is a guy that I think would fit the culture really well. So, but the guys that I think are quote unquote like perhaps game-changing corners is Gerard McCoy, who went 11th, so he's not going to be there at 50. So, so what do we do? Ta-da! The player I'm going to take is this guy, AJ Halsey from LSU. After transferring to LSU in 2025, he became a key defender, accumulating strong tackle totals and making plays on the ball throughout the season. Halsey's production underscore his range and ball skills as a safety capable of impacting both run support and coverage. So this is the new nickel in case Amik Robertson leaves, or if you want to play Amik Robertson on the outside in place of either Terrion Arnold or DJ Reed. Or I think that he is a safety opposite of Vontae Maddox, because we know Brian Branch is going to start the season, and I don't know about Kirby Joseph. So if you had Vontae Maddox and AJ Halsey, and then Terrion Arnold, DJ Reed, and Amik Robertson still on the team, like that's not bad. And then if both of those safeties, Branch and Joseph, come back and play well, then this guy could be a nickel corner. He's 6 foot 222. That's almost linebacker size in the NFL nowadays. And I think he gives you some insurance in case either safety doesn't come back and performs the way that they should. So, and plus, I just don't see a better prospect for the Lions on the board at this point. So so here we are at 57. This is the pick we got from the trade down with the Bears. So, what could we do here? We could take another corner. I don't think I have a problem with that. What if we added a pass rush specialist? So evaluations note his speed and agility as a rush threat, with Texas Tech using him frequently in pass rush situations and grading highly among Big 12 defenders. His experience across multiple programs and consistent pressure production highlight his development as a dynamic edge presence. So I think that you would bring this guy in and draft him here if you're just like, we are throwing resources at edge until we get the kind of pass rush situation that we're hoping that we can actually generate here. And like, there are other players on the board that I think would be nice, for the Lions, but like, we've got 4 of the top 5 prospects or wide receivers. That's not going to happen. We drafted an edge that's going to play where this guy plays. Another wide receiver. We took a safety that will play primarily where this guy will play. We don't need a running back. Here's another linebacker. So is Caleb Tiernan somebody that the Lions would want as like, maybe he's just Dan Skipper's replacement and he never gets any better than that. But his profile highlights technical consistency, solid pass protection fundamentals, and dependable snap-to-snap play, traits that translated to leadership on Northwestern's offensive front, though evaluations sometimes point to limitations in lateral agility and second-level blocking. If he can just be a solid pass protector, that's all you really need in order to replace Taylor Decker, which is not a shot against Decker. They just primarily use Decker for pass protection. And then, so let's just take a real quick look at offensive tackles and who's left on the board. Brian Parker is a center, or will play center in the NFL. Trey Zune is somebody that's also a tackle turned center. So it's either Tiernan or nobody. And so Eric Schlitt over at Pride of Detroit said that Tiernan was one of his players that he thought could potentially fill in, like would be on the Lions board, basically. So it is one of our number one needs. We have addressed other areas. Let's just take, if this guy is just the new Dan Skipper, I think you're doing something solid. And if he ends up becoming a viable replacement for Decker, if and when he retires, then that's great upside, especially in round 2. So we traded away our 4th round pick. Must have been in that trade with the Bears. So we will end up, I think it's round 5 until we pick again. So this is effectively the draft, right? So we took a pass rusher, a safety, and a tackle. Oh, Drew Aller went 100 spots earlier, 80 spots earlier than he was projected to go. That's interesting. So let's really speed this up. Twee! Off we go. Yeah. There goes Zune. Okay, so now what are we looking to do? So ChatGPT was like, we need interior interior pass rush. Gilles Howard is distinguished by his relentless motor and ability to disrupt both the run and pass from the interior, though his primary weakness is a recent history of significant injury. Interesting. His versatility as a playmaker in the trenches makes him a compelling prospect for multiple defensive schemes. Okay. The guy I'm going to draft is this guy right here, Sam Roush, 6'5", 260 from Stanford. Having started 30 consecutive games to finish his career, he is viewed as a durable and polished inline blocker who thrives in a physical run-based offense. Scouts note his strong hands as a primary asset, though he may need to continue adding functional strength to handle professional defensive redirects. Well, he's only 21 or 22. So welcome to Detroit, Sam Roush. Okay, so we're still looking for... Oh, we could still take this guy. I do like these players. I like TJ Hall. I like Matt Golban. So this would be we're drafting he's being drafted to be a backup center. So in this scenario, we have Cade Mays. So if we have Cade Mays and we draft this kid, it would probably mean that Graham Glasgow is no longer on the roster, right? So that would be some amount of cap savings, $7-8 million, something like that. Okay, 197. Oh, they took the guy, Skylar Gilhoward. Okay. Who have we picked? We have picked Messidor, Halsey, Tiernan, Roush, and Golban. So we didn't actually add any corners. So I will take this kid, TJ Hall. 6 foot 190. Technically sound defender with long arms and smooth hips that allow him to mirror receivers' effort effectively in press coverage. So the Lions like to play press coverage. Here's a press coverage corner. He went to Iowa, so I mean, they'll probably love him. 204. Let's see here. I'm going to take Marlon Klein from Michigan. So while he is dependable chain mover, scouts have noted that refining his explosive suddenness out of breaks could further enhance his draft stock. So I don't know that he's going to quote unquote get quicker, but like I watched his whole career at Michigan, and he's an effective blocker and pass catcher. So DJ Campbell from Texas. His primary strengths include elite power at the point of attack and exceptional mobility when pulling or climbing to the second level to terrorize linebackers. To reach his full potential, Campbell must address occasional lapses in hand placement to reduce his frequency of penalties. Yeah, so interior offensive lineman with upside. Welcome to Detroit. That should be the last time. Yeah, that should be the last pick in the draft. Well, we don't want what happened everywhere. We want what happened with the Lions. There we go. So we took Messidor, Halsey, Tiernan, Sam Roush, Golban, TJ Hall, Marlon Klein, and DJ Campbell. I'd be pretty happy with that. Like, and the reason that I would be happy with that is because I think that Messidor and Halsey give the Lions an opportunity to compete defensively this upcoming season. And like, my issue with the Lions is that they don't really force turnovers. They're very much centered on the idea of not turning the ball over, but they haven't effectively like flipped the switch on defense either. Like every once in a while, like a defensive back will punch the ball out. Jack Campbell's become quite good at punching the ball out and creating fumbles, but then the ball bounces and you don't know. Oh, wow. Messidor went at 15. So who's Caleb Downs is on the board? We're going to draft Caleb Downs. So, okay. So that's insane. So Downs is considered a versatile draft prospect with elite instincts and ball skills, often contributing as a high average punt returner in addition to his safety duties. His primary strength is his consistent playmaking ability across multiple systems, having anchored top-tier defenses in both the SEC and the Big Ten. That really doesn't. So this guy is considered to be, by some people, like the number one player in the draft, regardless of position. To get him at 17 is frankly ridiculous. And what happened here in this? Arvell Reese, David Bailey, yeah, Tate Fano, okay. All right. Messidor was early. Simpson was interesting. Okay, so like if that were to happen, so I've run maybe 50 mock drafts in the last 2 months, and never once has Caleb Downs fallen to the Lions at 17. So let's just assume here for a second that this happens in real life. Oh, now I'm just going to take a Henniger. This draft worked out great. if that happens, I can hear people saying stuff like, "Oh, they don't need a safety." Okay, that's fine. So, but like if you're let's say Amik Robertson leaves in free agency, someone gives Amik Robertson like $10 million a year, 3 years, $10 million a year. If Branch and Joseph both come back healthy, and you put Caleb Downs where Amik Robertson was, and you just want to run 3 safety looks, like that's pretty crazy. One thing that ChatGPT and some of the other questions I've asked it really emphasized taking impact players over positional value. So like it was consistently saying don't pass up the value because of the position. So like I guess it's the opposite of positional value, right? It's basically saying like if you have a blue chip prospect, BPA, right? If you have a blue chip prospect, don't pass them up because you either have a player at that position or it's not a position that you value. You should take the really good football player. So I do feel like that kind of fits in line with what the Lions were trying to do. So let's see here. We don't have an edge player. Ooh, Caden Curry's still on the board. I like Caden Curry. 6'3", 260. Should have gone back to school. He's a senior? I didn't think that was correct. Known for high motor and violent hands, he has proven effective at both collapsing the pocket and chasing down ball carriers from the backside. He lacks elite length of some traditional edge rushers. His explosive first step and technical proficiency at the point of attack remain his greatest draft assets. So we are picking at 118. Don't need a D lineman, I don't think. Wide receiver, running back, tight end's a possibility. Is there a player on this list that I like more than Caden Curry? No. Plus, there is some kind of nice symmetry between like a Michigan, Ohio State pairing for defensive ends, you know? So something that did happen today is that the NFL won a lawsuit against the NFLPA about the report cards that the NFLPA sends out to the players each year, and they rank the teams based upon like a whole bunch of different stuff. They're really quite interesting. And so the judge in the case ruled that the report cards do violate the CBA. So now they're still going to do them apparently, but they're not going to release them to the public. I don't think that we have taken a corner. I mean, we took Caleb Downs. Yeah, I'm going to take this kid, Hezekiah Massis, not only because his name is like excellent, but oh, is this the kid that has gritness? Yeah, okay. Well, we already took a safety. I'm going to draft this corner just to add competition to the room. Cal's produced several quality defensive backs in the last 10 or 15 years. Okay, so I'm going to draft Pat Coogan here to be a backup center. A lot of interior offensive linemen. Okay, now I'm going to draft Nate Borkirker. He is praised by evaluators for his basketball-like athleticism and ability to secure catches in tight windows, particularly in short yardage and goal line situations. His draft highlights his technical proficiency as a blocker and his utility as a situational receiver. While highly dependable, scouts have noted that he could benefit from increasing his explosive playmaking potential in a more vertical passing attack. So the Lions don't have a vertical passing attack, so that's not going to be something they need to worry about. I'm going to take Klubnik here. And the reason I'm doing that is Kyle Allen his contract is technically up. He's not currently on the team. I think it would be difficult for a rookie to beat out Kyle Allen to be the backup. I also still think the Lions should continually invest in quarterbacks that I think could either be backups or potential replacements for Jared Goff in 3 years or something like that. Okay, I'm going to take Hemby here. So the reason I'm taking Hemby here is it's our last pick in the draft. He had a great season for Indiana, and Craig Reynolds is a New England Patriot. So it's entirely possible that Craig Reynolds comes back to Detroit or whatever. But I think that it's also something like you can get younger, cheaper, maybe better, who knows, type of guys, in the 7th round, and Max Bredesen got drafted. Okay, so let's take a look at our draft. We got Caleb Downs, which some people regard as the best player, regardless of position in the draft. Max Ahenachor to be a Dan Skipper replacement / heir apparent to Decker, or just start for Decker. Caden Curry as I would call him a situational pass rusher. Like maybe he takes over for Al-Qadim Muhammad if he's not retained, or if what is that kid's name from Egypt that we signed last season that had the pec injury? I can't remember his name. He would light himself on fire or something, he said, for Dan Campbell. Anyways, I think that's an upgrade, a potential edge rusher. We didn't get the edge rusher I think that would make a quote-unquote difference maker, but I think that Caden's the next level down. Hezekiah Massis, maybe this is a guy that replaces a Lauren Strickland, or I would try and re-sign Rocky Sin, but if he gets a better offer from somebody else, maybe he fills that role, or maybe he's just fighting to be like the 6th corner on the team. Pat Coogan is a backup center to Cade Mays. If you bring in a guy like Cade Mays who's going to be learning the Lions system under Petzing, why not also bring in a center and have them learn together and grow in that role, and then maybe they're best friends and I don't know, lifelong buddies. Nate Borkirker is a tight end that can add to that room. So like Laporta and Wright should both be coming back. And so is this the Shane Zylstra replacement? Is this the Kenny Yeboah replacement? I think that he can earn a spot in that room, considering the guys that Detroit was playing at the end of the season. Cade Klubnik, can he be competition for Kyle Allen in the backup quarterback role? Roman Hemby, can you fight for like running back 3 or running back 4 on the team? Like currently, I would think that the running back 3 spot would be Vaki, and then running back 4 would be Jacob Sawyers because he's their kick returner. And that might be kind of hard to work your way into that room. But Craig Reynolds was on the team, and Vaki and Sawyers were still in those roles. So I don't see why adding a little competition to the room, some youth and some other stuff, would be bad. So okay, we're gonna start our third mock draft, and maybe let's see how the board falls and see if we can go a different way. So Jamad Koy's off the board. Okay, great. So this is nice. I'm gonna take Sonny Styles here. Like I think that Sonny Styles has future all pro written all over him. And so if you have two all pro linebackers on your second level, I think that gives the Lions something truly special that they can kind of like bank on and say, of all the things that we do, we are really good at this. Like we're really good at linebacker. We are exceptional at linebacker. So, oh god damn it. Okay, so now let's see. So we took Sonny Styles. So can we find an edge rusher? Can we? Oh, we're going to take Gabe Jacobs. Yeah, we're going to take Gabe Yakus. So Eric Schlitt at Pride of Detroit says this guy is Marcus Davenport without the injury history, and like Marcus Davenport looks pretty good when he's not injured. So I think that a younger, cost-controlled version of Marcus Davenport means that Marcus Davenport's not on the team, so you're going to be saving money there, and then hopefully he's on the field, And so like this the way this board fell, I think is about value and fit for the Detroit Lions. So the value was Sonny Style, the fit was Yakus. And they're both defensive players. So yeah, so we're not addressing the offensive line, but maybe the offensive line is addressed by Decker decides he wants to go one more year and they sign Cade Mays or Connor McGovern in the offseason, and they're like, okay, we feel pretty solid about this offensive line group, and then you go into 2027 with the idea that like now we have to address the Decker situation because he's not on the team anymore. Jolie's an interesting pick. Dalen Everett's an interesting pick. Like at this point, I almost want to abandon offensive line and just continue to draft defensive players, largely because they're going to be cheap. Here we are in round 4. And if you have improved your defense, and like this would, I think we could argue that we have improved the defense at all 3 levels. I think that there's a real good chance that this is the actual catalyst to take the Lions from a good team to a great team. Like if you find someone who can play opposite of Aiden Hutchinson in Yakus, if you can find someone that becomes a force multiplier for Jack Campbell, who's already an all-pro. Okay, so, well, if you can find more competition at the cornerback position, and like I feel like all NFL teams never have enough corners. And so why not continually add people to that group? Let's look at JC Davis. So this isn't much. It doesn't say anything about how he projects the NFL. 6'5", 320. That's right where you want it. 22 years old. Played in the Big Ten. That matters to me. Sam Roush is here. I picked him a lot. Falali Famaoe. So he struggles against speed, but he's good against power. We've drafted some of those other guys before. So let's see. Zune has 49 career starts at left tackle. His primary strengths are his technical consistency, high football IQ, and elite durability. Oh. He is widely regarded as a high floor prospect with versatility to play multiple positions across the offensive front. So I've heard that this guy is going to move to center, but he's 6'6", 315. So if you could take him and see how he goes at tackle, and then say, we signed Cade Mays, that appears to be working out, we're going to keep you at tackle, or, Cade got hurt or whatever. We're going to move. Like, our plan is to have you be the primary backup center as well, and then, he has positional versatility. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here. Dallin Bentley, primarily receiving threat. Okay, I'm going to take this kid, Bryce Bocher. He's a converted safety. He played center field for Oregon's baseball team. So if that tells you anything about like how he can run. He is lauded for his hard-nosed physicality, high-volume tackling, impressive performance in pass protection drills during Senior Bowl practices. So, I mean, like, I don't know what that means. Like, did he do a good job in coverage? But I do think that they are going to let Alex Anzalone walk. I think Malcolm Rodriguez is up for a contract extension. So linebacker might be in flux. If nothing else, he's probably a really good special teamer. Lions Voice valued that. Let's see who we've picked. Styles, Yakus, Everett, Zune, Bocher, Llewellyn. Lots and lots of defensive players. I do like this guy, Riley Nowakowski. I think he could be like a tight end hybrid fullback in the NFL. Let's take Bo Kircher again. Keep filling out that tight end group for the 13 personnel looks that Petzing wants to run. And this is our last pick coming up here. So, and then we'll call it after this. So, don't think that you can take two corners. Let's see. We have picked Zune's an offensive tackle / center. I don't know. Let's take DJ Campbell. Just as like maybe, so I know that Coyote Awoshika, his contract's up, so maybe they don't re-sign him. That would be a lot of turnover at the offensive line. The Lions have traditionally tried to hold on to players that know their scheme. So, all right, so we took Sonny Styles, Gabe Yakus, Dalen Everett, Trey Zune, Bryce Bocher, Max Llewellyn, Nate Bokirker, and DJ Campbell. So these are 8 guys. And I think that this is Detroit saying, like, what raises the floor of this team is adding talent to the defense. Clearly, the first 3 picks are all defensive players, 1 for each level. And then they're like, we have a project offensive lineman in Zune. Maybe he's a tackle. Maybe he's our backup center. Maybe he's a swing tackle. Bocher, we have as a linebacker depth and special teams player. Llewellyn is just a rotational defensive lineman. Boerkirker is another. He's the only tight end that we took. He's an addition to the tight end room, so maybe he's tight end 3, tight end 4 this year. And then we took another interior offensive lineman just in case they don't retain the players that they could retain in the offseason. So if they went something like this draft to me says something like Decker's back, they signed a center, and then we're filling in gaps. So remember, Detroit wants to go into the draft with a team that they can put out onto the field. So I think largely that means that like that gives them the most flexibility possible when making their decisions on who to add to the team. So I do think that it's important to understand that the kind of mock draft that we are seeing right now, before the combine, before free agency, are not going to be representative of like what is actually going to happen during the actual draft. And that's fine. These are just thought experiments right now, as opposed to like predictions as to what's going to happen. So I mean that's all this is. It's just thought experiments. So like we're here to get like familiar with the names of potential players, how they might fit, and kind of say like does this round peg fit in the square hole, that kind of thing. So anyways, it's a lot of fun. That's all that mock drafts really are. I like them because they give a lot of context for addressing things with the team. Sharp football analysis. Okay. So take it for what you will. It's just supposed to be fun. So we'll be back next week, hopefully with Mike in tow. And I hope you guys stay warm and stay safe. So have a good rest of your week.